Here's the brutal truth most men never want to hear. Women don't cheat the way men do. It's not reckless, it's not random, and it's never without reason. When she cheats, it's calculated. She detaches first, she rewrites the story in her mind, and by the time you catch the signs, it's already too late. That's why so many men are blindsided. They think betrayal comes out of nowhere, but it doesn't. It's the result of three specific conditions that, once in place, almost guarantee she'll step outside. If you don't know them, you're exposed. But if you do, you'll see the cracks forming long before she crosses the line. Number 1. Craving variety when she feels starved. When a woman cheats, many men assume it must be because she met someone better, someone richer, someone stronger. But that's not always the truth. The real trigger often begins inside her own mind, when she feels starved. Starved of attention, starved of affection, starved of intimacy. You see, in psychology, deprivation amplifies desire. Whatever you lack, you begin to crave more intensely. And for women, this starvation doesn't always start with sex. It starts with the feeling that her soul is going unnoticed. Think about it. A woman can be physically present in your life but mentally and emotionally invisible. You might live under the same roof, share the same meals, even sleep in the same bed. But if she feels like she's fading into the background, her mind begins to wander. That craving for variety creeps in slowly. It's not that she wants to replace you at first. It's that she wants to feel alive again. She wants the butterflies, the spark, the chase. And when she doesn't get it where she should, her psychology makes her vulnerable to getting it elsewhere. This is where many men go wrong. They think consistency means security. They stop flirting with her, stop surprising her, stop giving her reasons to feel wanted. Instead of excitement, they give routine. Instead of passion, they give predictability. And the truth is, routine kills attraction. Her brain, wired for emotional stimulation, begins to interpret this routine as starvation. Suddenly, the smallest sign of interest from another man feels like oxygen to a drowning person. That tiny compliment, that playful smile, that spark of energy she's been missing. It ignites the craving for variety. Now, here's where psychology takes it deeper. A woman doesn't always cheat because she finds someone more attractive. She cheats because that person represents something she feels deprived of. If she feels ignored, he represents attention. If she feels unappreciated, he represents validation. If she feels bored, he represents adventure. In other words, the act of cheating is less about the man she cheats with and more about the hunger she's trying to satisfy within herself. The newness, the variety, the unpredictability. It becomes irresistible when she feels emotionally starved. This doesn't mean she's justified. It means her psychology has created a powerful temptation. Craving variety is rooted in the way human beings seek novelty. The brain releases dopamine when we experience something new, something different. Over time, when her relationship feels repetitive, that dopamine dries up. Her body and mind begin searching for another source. And if she finds it, that craving can override logic. She may know it's wrong. She may even love you deeply. But in that moment of starvation, the need for variety feels stronger than loyalty. What most men fail to recognize is how small moments compound. When you stop looking into her eyes with intensity, she feels the difference. When you stop noticing her efforts, her new dress, her changed hairstyle, she feels unseen. When you stop making her feel chosen, she starts questioning if she's still valued. These micro-starvations stack up until one day, she's not just missing you. She's craving someone else. Psychology teaches us that neglect doesn't create neutrality. Neglect creates hunger. Hunger demands to be fed, and if not fed at home, it will seek nourishment elsewhere. This is why some women end up with men who seem inferior to the ones they already have. From the outside, people ask, why would she cheat with him? He's not even on the same level. But they miss the psychology behind it. She didn't cheat because he was better overall. She cheated because in that one specific moment, he fed the hunger she was starving from. To her brain, that single act of feeding meant more than all the other qualities her partner already had. Because when you're starving, even crumbs feel like a feast. Number 2. The slow death of love and respect. Cheating doesn't usually come crashing into a relationship like a thunderstorm out of nowhere. It creeps in quietly, almost invisibly, the way a candle slowly burns down without you noticing until the wax has nearly melted away. For a woman, betrayal rarely begins with passion. It begins with erosion, the slow death of love and respect. At first, she's deeply invested. She admires you, looks up to you, feels proud to stand beside you. But psychology reveals something many men don't want to face. Admiration is fragile. Respect is conditional. And when those fade, the foundation of loyalty collapses with them. In the beginning, her eyes sparkle when you speak. She laughs at your jokes, she clings to your energy, she brags about you to her friends. But over time, if your actions don't align with the man she believed you were, that spark begins to dim. Maybe you stop chasing your goals. Maybe you become complacent, passive, or careless with her feelings. Maybe you treat her as guaranteed, not realizing nothing is guaranteed in human psychology. Slowly, she stops seeing you as the man she once admired. That shift doesn't happen overnight, but it's deadly all the same. Psychology tells us that women connect emotionally before they disconnect physically. She doesn't wake up one day and decide she no longer respects you. It happens in fragments. The way you handle stress, the way you let others disrespect you without standing up for yourself, the way you avoid responsibility or drift into laziness. Each small moment chips away at the image she once had of you. Over time, the man she fell for and the man standing in front of her feel like two different people. That dissonance creates an emotional gap, and that gap becomes the breeding ground for betrayal. Here's the harsh truth. A woman doesn't usually cheat when she still respects you. Respect is the anchor that keeps her tied to you even when attraction fluctuates, even when times are hard. But once that respect dissolves, she becomes emotionally free to rationalize choices she once considered unthinkable. That's why so many women say afterward, "It just happened." In reality, it didn't just happen. It was building quietly as love and respect decayed. By the time she cheats, the act itself is simply the final expression of a process that's been unfolding for months or years. This is also why women rarely leave suddenly. A breakup or betrayal is almost always preceded by emotional withdrawal. She stops engaging in deep conversations. She stops being affectionate. She stops arguing, even, because arguing means she still cares enough to fight. Indifference replaces passion, and with indifference comes distance. That distance creates space for someone else to slip in, someone who appears to fill the void that's been widening between you and her. From her perspective, she isn't betraying you as much as she's reclaiming what she lost: validation, excitement, the feeling of being seen and admired again. The psychology behind this is simple yet brutal. Human beings cannot stay loyal to someone they no longer respect because respect fuels desire. You cannot admire someone and betray them in the same breath, but once admiration fades, betrayal becomes psychologically possible. For her, cheating becomes less about destroying what you had and more about searching for what she feels is already gone. She doesn't see it as trading up or trading down. She sees it as filling a hole her mind has convinced her you can no longer fill. And this is why so many men are blindsided. They think everything is fine because she hasn't left. They mistake silence for security. But in her silence, the slow death of love and respect is unfolding. Every small disappointment, every ignored need, every moment where you didn't rise as the man she once believed in, it's all stacking up silently in her memory. Then one day, the final piece falls into place, and she crosses a line you thought she never would. Number 3, fear and circumstances leading to betrayal. Not every act of betrayal is born out of passion, lust, or an unstoppable craving for variety. Sometimes cheating doesn't come from strength at all. It comes from weakness. It comes from fear, from pressure, from circumstances that trap a woman into believing that stepping into someone else's arms is the only escape. This is the side of infidelity men rarely talk about, because it doesn't fit the narrative of a fiery affair. But psychology makes it clear. Human beings are wired to seek safety when threatened, and if she perceives danger, loneliness, or despair in her current world, she may seek comfort elsewhere, not because of desire, but because of survival. Fear changes how the mind works. A woman who feels abandoned, isolated, or unsupported becomes psychologically vulnerable. She might be in a relationship where she feels unheard, where her emotions are dismissed, where her insecurities are magnified instead of soothed. In that vulnerable state, even the smallest act of empathy from another man feels amplified. It isn't always attraction that draws her in. It's relief. It's the sigh of safety when someone finally listens, finally validates, finally gives her a sense of being understood. And in her mind, that comfort can slowly turn into connection. And that connection can cross boundaries she once swore she never would. Circumstances play a bigger role than most men realize. Imagine a woman under relentless stress, financial struggles, emotional battles, or a relationship that feels like it's crumbling around her. Add to that the pressure of loneliness or the fear of losing her youth, her beauty, her sense of importance. Under those conditions, her choices are no longer guided solely by morality, but by psychology's survival mechanism. She seeks a lifeline, someone who can pull her out of the emotional drowning. If another man offers that hand at the right time, betrayal can happen. Not because she wanted to betray, but because she wanted to escape drowning. This is why some women cheat and then cry afterward. Not out of guilt for being caught, but out of confusion about how it even happened. She didn't plan it, she didn't chase it. She simply drifted into it because fear clouded her judgment and circumstances pulled her into a state of weakness. The psychology of betrayal isn't always black and white. It's not always about passion overpowering loyalty. Sometimes it's about fear overpowering reason. Think about how the brain processes stress. Under pressure, the logical part of the mind weakens while the emotional part, the part desperate for relief, takes control. In that moment, decisions aren't made with clarity, they're made with desperation. That desperation may look like a late-night text, an emotional conversation that becomes too intimate, or a moment of comfort that spirals into something physical. What makes it dangerous is that she might not even recognize it as betrayal until the line is already crossed, because in her state of fear, what she's really chasing is safety, not passion. Another layer of this is dependency. A woman who feels trapped, whether financially, emotionally, or socially, can rationalize cheating as a form of survival. If she believes her current relationship is unstable or unsafe, her mind seeks a backup plan. Psychology calls this mate-switching strategy, where one relationship isn't fully abandoned until another feels secure enough to replace it. On the surface, it looks like betrayal. Underneath, it's fear. The fear of being left alone, unprotected, or powerless in a world that feels hostile without support. Circumstances also magnify temptation. Distance in long-term relationships, long working hours, travel, or even the emotional absence of a partner all create the perfect storm. Fear of abandonment, fear of fading into irrelevance, fear of growing old without passion. All of these fears fuel the subconscious need for escape. And when another man appears in that vulnerable window, he doesn't need to be extraordinary. He only needs to represent relief from the fear she's drowning in. This is why betrayal isn't always a story of lust. Sometimes it's a story of weakness, of pressure, of fear twisting human psychology into decisions that even she doesn't fully understand. Fear strips away strength and makes survival the only priority. When her circumstances corner her, betrayal can feel less like rebellion and more like rescue, even if deep down she knows it's a path that destroys everything she once valued.